This is update for February 13, 2023, day 355 of the war and of the date update. I did not do update yesterday as essentially there's no uh, sort of major news. Just didn't want to do video for the sake of doing video. Going forward, I probably will use that approach as just I don't think it's worth keeping you busy if there is not much to report. But let's talk a little bit about the strategic, and then we're gonna switch to Ukraine. So first one is Minister of Foreign Affairs of China is gonna visit Russia sometime mid of February, so which is pretty soon. Um, it's a sign that you know China is China Russia, or at least in Russia, it's viewed that they are coming closer. They're becoming more sort of formalized um, um alliance as opposed to just kind of accidental alliance. That's that's what we observed so far. So remains to be seen what's going to come out of it because um, this Minister of Foreign Affairs also visiting Europe. So he's apparently on sort of negotiation trip and basically testing the water, trying to understand the situation better from from the trenches. Then there were couple of I would say strange news, but maybe um, I don't know, maybe no, that's not the right word. But first, U.S. Urged its citizens to leave Russia. Then, I believe France and Canada urged their citizens to leave Belarus. If you remember, Belarus is here, right above Ukraine, north of Ukraine, and it's essential extension of Russia. It's like basically two sides of the same coin, so there is no essential difference. This all looks very unusual. Let's put this way, in very mild way. In the in the past, you know, something similar was happening in Ukraine, where the all of these major Western countries they were calling on their citizens to leave Ukraine before right before invasion. So don't know how to interpret this. We'll see what happens out of all of it, but there's apparently something sort of happening. Uh, Now let's switch to Ukraine. First, we're going to talk about the Ukrainian power grid. It's actually doing a little bit better. Apparently, Ukrainian company that sort of handles power distribution network got um, more help in terms of spare parts for transformers, even though they tend to be not to be easy to replace and so on. But somehow um, there is more availability of electricity to the average consumer, and some people don't even experience any interruptions at all. So there's a very clear improvement. Um, at this point, really hard to pinpoint how it's actually being done, and I think it's being kept intentionally in secret so that Russian side will not, take advantage of it and attack. So, but sort of factually, situation has improved significantly. Um, Remains to be seen if this sort of remains that way, but things are definitely better. Now let's switch to the walk through the front line. We're gonna do it in a clockwise fashion, as I always do, starting from very north, and then we're gonna go down south. So the situation along the state border is more or less the same, and I would say fairly quiet. Nothing special. In terms of, if you remember, I mentioned about this potential attack from this area between Sumy and Kharkiv regions, but on the Russian side in Belgorod region. Remains to be seen if that's gonna become sort of if this is gonna get realized or not. Just wanna mention that I'm still waiting sort of for what's gonna happen there. Then situation. Let's move to the North Lugansk front line. Things here are more or less firmly in the Russian hands. They're continuing their attacks here. in the very south, attempting to destroy Ukrainian bridgeheads, basically trying to push as much as they can, however, without any success so far here. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line, where things are pretty bad for Ukraine in a nutshell. So this is a little bit unupdated map because it looks like Russian troops or Wagner mercenaries, to be more specific, they managed to get to this. I mentioned this before, E40 road, and even gonna kind of get a little bit across. So there is kind of ridge here that's barely visible. So they probably got to it, using that ridge as a cover. Let's actually look at the situation a little bit closer up. So this is this ridge that I mentioned here. It's also not the best on this map. So uh, I mentioned before that Krasnahora has fallen, like probably about 2 or 3 days ago. So at this point, Paraskoivka, this is another big important stronghold. So as you can see, it's semi-encircled. So this is probably gonna fall anytime soon. Let's say 2, 3, 4 days. The sense basically the fate of it is sealed, and as you can see, once this is in Russian hands, this will allow them to actually move more decisively across this motorway, because right now you can always get flanking attack from the flank. Even technically, Ukrainian troops really not capable of doing that just because organizationally and leadership wise and so on. But you can all, it's always a risk, and I don't think Wagner mercenaries are about that they trying to sort of capture as soon as possible. The point is not to capture, it's actually to kill as many Ukrainian soldiers as possible. From that perspective, there's no really rush. um, so but as you can see, um, situation is very clear that Bakhmut is lost. It's only a question of time how quickly it's going to get lost. This is this kind of like a pink line is this main road, supply road that I mentioned. There are two bridges here across this channel that's still in Ukrainian hands. This bridge here has been blown up. I mentioned this before. So essentially, as you can see, Bakhmut is almost semi-encircled as well. And once Paraskovika falls, this will create they Russian troops will even move more closer here towards Orikhovo Vasilievka, basically in this direction here, and this really will sort of seal the fate of Bakhmut. So I cannot give you timeline, but in a short order, Bakhmut will be lost. I don't know how long it's going to be, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, something like that. Maybe even, anything is possible, let's put it this way. Maybe 1 month, but it's clearly going to be lost. At this point, it's just um, delaying tactic on Ukrainian side. Um, so this is just, again, the same look, the same picture as you can see, except I didn't update this area here where Russian troops are sort of closer or cut across this motorway here. Now let's move to central Donbass front line. Things here are sort of static, even though there are Russian attacks, as always, out of Pesky Salient, Marinka. Actually, no attacks in Vuhledar because of the heavy losses there. But overall, it's, I would say, status quo. No essential advances, no essential changes by Russian troops. And as I mentioned before, the reason is very simple. This is the same Soviet army, and Soviet army versus Soviet army, uh, you know, the attacking Soviet army is not able to penetrate defending Soviet army. That's just a simple kind of like explanation how it works here. And then let's quickly look at Zaporizhya front line. He has become very sort of quiet. As I mentioned before, at the beginning of January, Russian troops tested the waters here in this most sort of western stretch of it. But ever since, it's all quiet. So at this point, everybody's expecting this Russian attack. Um, we'll see if when and if even maybe it happens. I'm leaning towards it will happen because there is a pressure on the Russian side to show something, um, but it may take some time. Anyways, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye.